Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt your hair was too messy, too thin, or suddenly more important than it should be? Maybe one tiny bald spot feels like disaster, even though it is only keratin growing quietly from skin you almost never notice. We treat hair like fashion, identity, beauty, embarrassment, and control. But hair is far older than mirrors, shampoo, or selfies. The real mystery is not simply why we have hair, it is why humans lost most body fur, yet kept hair on top. Look at chimpanzees, gorillas, and most large mammals. Their bodies wear fur coats. Humans became strange, exposed, sweating animals. We are sometimes called the naked ape, but that phrase hides a clue. We are not truly naked, we are redesigned. To understand the answer, leave the mirror behind and step into a world with no roof, no sunscreen, and no shade. Imagine a small, ancient group walking under a high sun, carrying hunger, tools, children, and every decision needed to stay alive. For an animal covered in thick fur, heat can become a trap. Fur protects in cold, but under sun, it holds warmth. Humans were not the fastest, strongest, or sharpest-toothed animals, but we became unusual movers, able to walk far and sweat. Sweat does not look heroic like fire or stone tools, yet evaporation can carry heat away and help a body continue. One careful hypothesis says reducing dense body fur may have helped sweat cool the skin more efficiently during hot, active lives. But evolution is not tidy. A fur coat can save life in cold, then become a burden when the body overheats. So the body may have made a bargain. Less fur across the skin, more sweating, better cooling under the open sky. Yet one question remains. If fur was reduced to release heat, why did the hair on the head refuse to disappear? To answer that, look at the human body, standing upright, small under the sky, with one place receiving sunlight first, the head. A four-legged animal meets the sun differently. Much of its back faces upward, while a walking human exposes the skull like a target. Inside that skull sits the brain, powerful but temperature-sensitive, expensive to run, and too important to roast beneath ancient sunlight. Suddenly, head hair stops looking decorative. It begins to look like a tiny living roof, carried everywhere the body walks. The body may have needed open skin to cool, while the head still needed shade. That contradiction may explain everything. Less fur, where heat must escape. More hair, where sunlight strikes hardest. It sounds strange, but survival often works through trade-offs. But we should be careful. Evolution rarely leaves a simple receipt, and ancient hair almost never survives for scientists to examine. Bones can fossilize. Stone tools can remain. Teeth can survive for ages. But hair disappears, taking many direct answers with it. So researchers build the story from clues: anatomy, climate, sweating, primate comparison, genetics, and how modern bodies handle heat. Modern experiments suggest scalp hair can reduce solar heat reaching the head, especially when hair shape creates more shade and airflow. Different hair shapes may have mattered too. Some forms could shade the scalp while allowing heat to leave, but details remain debated. This does not mean every answer is solved. It means the body was shaped by sunlight, movement, sweat, and risk. Picture the group crossing open land. Their skin releases heat, their feet keep moving, and their hair catches the brutal sun. So head hair may be more than a style. It may be a portable shadow over the most precious organ we carry. But heat and sunlight are not the only suspects. Near ancient skin, something smaller may have shaped the story too. Ticks, fleas, lice, and biting insects were tiny, but for ancient skin, they may have been constant enemies hiding close to the body. A small group slept close together for warmth. Hides, bedding, children, adults, and firelight made survival possible, but also shared every problem. One hypothesis suggests that reducing dense body fur made parasites easier to spot, easier to remove, and harder to hide for long. But again, evolution gives a twist. Humans did not become perfectly smooth. Fine body hairs still cover much of our skin. Those tiny hairs may act like sensors. Something moves on the skin, the hair bends, and the nervous system receives a warning. Before the mind understands, the hand reacts. A small itch, a tiny crawl, a sudden touch can become useful information. Even goosebumps feel like a message from the past. Cold, fear, alertness, and skin trying to remember an older fur coat. So body hair was not simply lost or kept. It was thinned, reshaped, and turned into part of a larger skin system. The skin became a frontier between sun, sweat, insects, wind, cold, touch, and danger. Hair became one small border guard. And yet, the hair people cared about most was not the faint hair on arms. It was the visible hair around the face. At the river, a group could groom, check skin, untangle hair, and quietly maintain the bodies that kept everyone alive. In firelight, hair became part of recognition. A child knew a parent's silhouette before seeing the eyes clearly. Every face mattered in a small band. Who shared food, who watched children, who remembered paths, who could be trusted after dark. Over time, hair could become more than protection, a signal of health, age, belonging, beauty, grief, ritual, or personal identity. That is why the story of hair cannot stay on the skin. It moves into the eyes of other humans watching you. The face is where humans read emotion, trust, fear, anger, and attention. Hair sits above it like a frame around identity. We cannot prove exactly when ancient people first gave hair meaning, because hair and emotions rarely fossilize into clear evidence. But the social power of hair is obvious today. A haircut can change how strangers read your age, confidence, and personality. In a small band, visible hair may have helped mark age, health, family resemblance, status, ritual, or simply who belonged nearby. Grooming may not have been vanity. It could be care, bonding, parasite checking, and quiet proof that someone still belonged. When another person touched your hair, they were close enough to help, notice trouble, remove insects, and share trust without many words. Around the fire, hair became silhouette. Before language explained everything, shape, posture, and familiarity could already say, "This person is mine." Maybe this is why changing hair still feels powerful. It changes the outline others recognize before they hear your voice. That is why hair loss can feel deeper than chemistry. It can feel like losing youth, control, attractiveness, or a familiar self. Modern life calls it appearance. An older part of the brain may call it recognition, belonging, and how safely others see you. In prehistory, being recognized by the group was not a small emotional luxury. It could connect you to food, fire, and protection. So, hair becomes a bridge. First a shield from sun, then a signal seen by people who decided whether you belonged. But the story is bigger than hair. Once the body lost dense fur, it needed something else to survive cold nights. A mostly hairless body can release heat in daylight, but when wind rises and temperature drops, that same body becomes fragile. That is where fire, clothing, shelter, and the tribe enter the story, completing what the naked body could no longer do alone. Fire did what fur once did. It held warmth near the group, pushed back night, and turned fragile bodies into survivors. Animal hides became borrowed fur. Scraped, dried, wrapped, and repaired, they turned another creature's covering into human protection. A needle, a cord, a hide, and a memory could replace what evolution had thinned from the skin over countless generations. This made humans vulnerable, but also flexible. Instead of wearing one permanent coat, they could build different answers for different worlds. A chimpanzee wears insulation on its body. A human can make insulation, carry it, share it, and improve it over time. But sweating had a cost. To cool through skin, the body needed water, shade, timing, and people who knew where to find them. So survival was never just skin and hair. It was rivers remembered, roots shared, children taught, and elders listened to carefully. A lone body could overheat, freeze, or lose the path. A group could remember seasons, divide tasks, and protect the weak. That is the hidden twist. The human body evolved with behavior, not separately from it. Biology and culture began leaning on each other. Without fire, bare skin suffered. Without clothing, cold punished it. Without the tribe, knowledge died before it could protect anyone. The child did not inherit a fur coat, but inherited something stranger. Hands showing how to scrape hides and keep embers alive. This is why humans are not simply naked apes. We are apes whose missing fur was answered by fire, tools, and memory. On cold nights, the group became the missing coat. Bodies near bodies, stories near fire, and hair glowing softly in sparks. Now return to the mirror. The hair you comb is not isolated decoration. It belongs to a whole ancient survival system, and that may explain why hair still feels emotional today. It is biology, culture, memory, and belonging, tangled into one visible signal. Today, one bad hair day can change your mood before anyone even speaks. That sounds modern, but the feeling may be ancient. Hair grows from skin, yet we treat it like a public announcement about age, health, confidence, beauty, rebellion, grief, and belonging. In a small prehistoric group, every visible signal mattered. A changed face, changed posture, or changed hair could draw attention immediately. Attention was not always dangerous, but it was never meaningless. Being noticed by the group could bring care, judgment, help, or suspicion. So, modern hair anxiety may not be only vanity. It may touch older systems for reputation, acceptance, and how safely we are seen. When someone fears losing hair, they may fear losing more than strands. They may fear losing the version others recognize. For ancient people, recognition was practical. The familiar silhouette near fire meant family, ally, teacher, food sharer, watcher, or trusted sleeper. This does not mean every ancient hairstyle had a fixed meaning. It means visible traits could become material for social memory. A child watching adults groom may have learned more than cleanliness. They learned closeness, patience, trust, and where the body needed care. That small act of grooming could calm fear, remove discomfort, and say without language, "You are close enough for me to help." Modern salons, razors, oils, hats, and hairstyles may look far from prehistory, but they still orbit the same visible signal. The mirror tells you hair is personal. Evolution suggests it was also environmental, social, and tied to how humans survived together. So the strange patch on your head is not a simple leftover. It may be a compromise between sun, skin, heat, and society. Under stars, nobody cared about fashion the way we do. But they may have cared deeply about recognition, touch, warmth, and trust. And once we understand that, the bathroom mirror becomes stranger. It is not just reflecting style, it reflects a very old body. The human body is a museum, but not a clean museum with labels. It is living, messy, emotional, and full of old compromises. The spine remembers standing upright. The feet remember walking far. The hands remember tools, fire, hides, and the patience to make them. The skin remembers sunlight, cold, insects, and touch. Sweat remembers heat, and hair remembers a world before walls and roofs. So the next time you look in the mirror, look again. That hair is not just style sitting above your face. It may be shade from an ancient sun, a signal to other humans, and a remnant of survival written in strands. The same faint body hairs we ignore may still whisper when something touches skin, bending before the conscious mind catches up. The same fear of losing hair may be tied to an older fear. Will the group still see me the same way? Will I still belong? Will I still look like myself? Ancient questions can hide inside very modern worries about appearance. Modern humans live far from that savanna, with roofs, fans, hats, sunscreen, hospitals, barbers, and mirrors bright enough to judge everything. And still, hair matters. We touch it when nervous, notice it in strangers, and use it to say who we are. Maybe hair feels personal because it stands exactly where biology meets story, where the ancient body asks to be seen by others. We lost the heavy fur coat, but kept the crown. A small patch of protection, signal, memory, and mystery. Not because evolution is neat, but because survival is negotiation. Between heat and cold, skin and sky, insects and protection. Between the lonely body and the group around fire, humans became a strange animal that survives by changing the world around itself. And now the final question remains. What ancient memory is still moving softly in those strands when night falls? Night falls over the prehistoric plain. The sun that punished the skull disappears, and the cold begins rising from the dark ground. The group pulls close to fire. Their bodies no longer wear the old fur coat, so warmth must come from each other. Their heads catch the orange glow. Different hair shapes flicker above familiar faces, like small flags of identity in the dark. A child leans against a parent. An elder watches the dark. Nothing dramatic happens, yet survival is happening everywhere. Wonder Stickman lifts one hand to his messy hair, confused, alive, and strangely human under the same ancient sky. Above the camp, stars stay silent. Around the fire, bodies remember heat, cold, danger, care, and the cost of staying alive. In the morning, the sun will return, and that little roof of hair will again stand between skull and sky. No single answer explains every strand. Human hair may carry clues from heat, sunlight, parasites, touch, attraction, recognition, and group life. Scientists keep piecing the story together from bodies, climates, experiments, living primates, genetics, and the few traces time allows. So when you see hair in the mirror, you are seeing more than style. You are seeing a prehistoric compromise still growing. It may be shade, signal, sensor, memory, and mystery, all tangled together above the face that other humans learned to read. We lost the fur coat, but kept the crown. Not royal, not perfect, just useful enough to remain. Survival was never one clean design. It was negotiation between skin and sky, lonely bodies, and the group gathered around fire. A mostly hairless animal learned to sweat, walk, make fire, wear borrowed fur, and turn belonging into protection. And in those thin strands, moving softly in the night wind, a tiny piece of the ancient sun is still remembered.